New alarm bells ringing tonight on the coronavirus outbreak in this country.
Doctors say the virus is spread through droplets when someone coughs or sneezes.
And I think the business community, it's in their interest that people actually stay home and stop the spread.
For a business that can allow more employees to telecommute, we want you to do that.
Hi, friends. I'm Andy Paul, host of the Sales Enablement Podcast, and I want to encourage you to listen to my brand new special 6-part podcast miniseries titled Selling with Purpose. The team behind Sales Enablement Podcast and I put together this incredible series of inspiring conversations exploring what it means to sell with a mission greater than just hitting your numbers in this era of COVID-19 and beyond. So tune in to hear from world-class enterprise sales leaders and learn how their 6 companies will close $50 billion selling remotely. See how they've supported essential workers with the products and services they need to stay safe and thrive during this time of crisis. Subscribe to Selling with a Purpose now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Guided Selling from RingDNA makes your entire sales team more effective by revealing exactly what reps should do and when to do it. Guided Selling works by transforming sales data into a curated list of prioritized sales actions. So when reps start their day, they'll never again wonder which prospects and accounts or hot inbound leads to reach out to next. Guided Selling even shifts reps' priority in response to real-time buying signals. Finally, even new reps can sell like seasoned ones. Let RingDNA be your guide to success. Learn more at ringdna.com/guided selling. That's ringdna.com/guided selling. It's time to accelerate. Hey friends, this is Andy. Welcome to episode 698 of Accelerate, the sales podcast of record. So how's everyone's week going so far? I mean, I have to admit, pretty early in the year, but we have so many exciting opportunities in front of us that actually we're having a hard time prioritizing what to do first. I mean, you ever run into that problem? I mean, it's a great place to be early in the year. Much better that than not having anything to do, but still. Well, anyway, we have another excellent episode this week for you to help you get February off to a strong start. Joining me today is my friend Skip Miller. Skip is founder and president of M3 Learning, author of a couple of great books. First, Proactive Selling, and secondly, Selling Above and Below the Line. And I always enjoy having Skip on the show. Been around for a long time, no BS, calls it like it is. And he sees firsthand through his work many of the problems that are holding back B2B sellers, and has some pretty clear-cut advice about what needs to change to enable sellers to hit their marks on a consistent basis. And Skip shares some of the findings of his work with sales teams, primarily in the tech business. Sales teams find that 90-day sales forecasts have an accuracy of only 45 to 50%. Think about that. Within a 90-day window, sellers are only hitting 40 to 50% accuracy on their forecasts. Find sales cycles too long for the price of the product they're selling. And the average order size, well, that goes along with that, is way too low. So it's sort of like hitting the trifecta of bad outcomes. Even in these environments, you still see top performers hitting the number, but it's all about sort of brute force selling, quantity over quality. And the point is not that you can't sell that way, but it's you do it at what cost over the long run. The cost to you, to your organization, to your buyers. So we're going to dive into some specific areas where sellers need to focus to create a brighter sales future for themselves and their organizations. Now, before we get to Skip, I want to take a quick second to talk about the Sales House. The sales accelerator community for B2B sellers. Now, as sellers, we don't have control over a lot of the things that have an impact on our jobs. The products we sell, the pricing, the features, the customers we sell to, our customer service, our customer success teams, all those things. However, what we can control is how we conduct ourselves in front of our buyers. All those other factors pale in importance compared to how we connect and build rapport, how we engage the interest of buyers, how we build trust, how we deliver value that inspires buyers to want to do business with us. And that's our focus at the Sales House, to enable you, sellers just like you, with the knowledge, skills, confidence, and acumen to become the very best version of you. So come visit us at the Sales House. That's visit thesaleshouse.com/trial. That is thesaleshouse.com/trial. I look forward to seeing you there. All right, let's jump into it with my guest today, Skip Miller. Skip Miller, it's great to see you again.
As well, always.
As always. So we're we're going to talk about several things. One is we could talk about Cleveland Browns because I know you're a big fan, and I'm very optimistic about Browns. I mean, I was a kid. I was a fan of the Browns. They're sort of my second team. I was a Packer fan, but then the Browns had Frank Ryan, Jim Brown, Leroy Kelly. I mean, those are great teams to watch. So I'm rooting for them.
We have names in Cleveland of how to lose. We have the drive, the fumble, the shot. We have names. So
that's true.
And for your listeners, they'll listen to this. There's only 4 teams that have never been to the Super Bowl, and try to name them. The Browns, of course, are one, and there's 3 others who have never been to the Super Bowl.
All right, Carolina Panthers.
That's true. No, Panthers were there.
Oh, that's right. They did go. That's right. They went against the Patriots. Oh, wow. Let's waste some airtime with this one. So, Cleveland.
Okay, you were close. Jacksonville.
Oh, Jacksonville. Okay, that's right.
And then the Texans.
Texans and the Titans. No, Titans went. Titans went. They went against St. Louis. That's right.
The team that nobody gets also is the Lions. The Lions have never been to the Super Bowl.
Oh, wow. That's right.
So the Lions, the Texans, and the Browns, and Jacksonville. So yeah, so we're in that nice little class there.
Yeah.
So I'll hold my enthusiasm for the year, but we are excited.
Okay. Was a lifelong Packer fan. We sort of don't like the Lions because of that. It's always the Thanksgiving Day match. But I was cheering for them this last week as they were playing the Patriots because everybody likes to see the Patriots. Well, most parts of the country like to see the Patriots lose.
Like to see the franchise come down.
Yeah. So especially the protege playing the master, it was great drama.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to talk about sales, and the topic really for today is one you and I have talked about in the past and exchanged correspondence about is how do we really change things up in sales, right? I mean, sales, in my opinion, sales fundamentally operates the same way it's operated for, let's say, since the 1890s, when NCR sort of revolutionized industrial selling in the United States. I mean, it seems like we're doing things largely the same way in terms of how we manage people, hire people, how we measure how they do. And it seems like something should change, right? When there's old line industries like steel manufacturing and auto manufacturing that completely revolutionized how they produce their work product. And yet we seem to be still sort of stuck in the same way.
Well, welcome to Silicon Valley, right? We're the home of entrepreneurship and innovation and stuff as well. And we've been doing this for about 20 years, Andy. So we've got hot companies that are $10, $20 million startups. We do work with Tableau and Google and Apple. And so we see it all, right? Mm-hmm. And when I go to an account and some hot startup that's trying to go to 100 million to $1 billion and stuff, and I'll say, what's your sales forecast accuracy? And, if you've got a 90-day window into your accounts of those deals that are actually, these are the ones, you have 100 deals coming in. 90 days later, how many of those 100 come in? Not, the total revenue number, because things can slide in and slide out. Of those 100 come in, I typically hear like 45%, 50%. And if you think about it, you get better odds in Vegas sometimes. So it's like, forecast accuracy is a symptom.
Right.
And then you go, how about your sales cycle length? Well, we sell something for $20,000, takes us 110 days to do it. And you're like, you're out of business if it takes 110 days to sell 20 grand. Mm-hmm. What are you doing to shorten your sales cycle length? And then you go, one of the worst sins in sales is you walk away from a deal thinking you left money on the table. How are you trying to increase your average order size?
Right.
So these things have not been changed since the 1800s. So what can salespeople do? Because everywhere I go, Andy, forecast accuracy is still sucky. The average order size is still below what people think they should get. From a customer standpoint, they could have bought more and gotten a better ROI, but they just weren't presented with that option. Mm-hmm. And sales cycles are too long.
And close rates are too low.
It hasn't changed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure not as many as you do, but talk to a ton of SaaS companies and founders, and I trot the story out a lot, so people are probably tired of hearing it. But a conversation with CRO of a very prominent SaaS company, and I said, "Well, what's your growth plan for the coming year?" And he says, "Well, we've got this finely tuned machine where we can basically get infinite number of leads coming into the top of the funnel. I'm just going to hire a bunch of SDRs and flow through." I said, "But your close rate's still like 1 in 5." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, wouldn't it be cheaper, faster, more profitable to grow by increasing your close rate from 1 to 5 to 1.2 or out of 5 or 2 out of 5?" And this idea of becoming more effective just had never occurred to him.
Yeah.
It's like we got whole segments of the sales profession, if you will. They're sort of just like, it's pure quantity. We're just going to do quantity.
And that's reflected in people's training programs and their marketing brochures. Go to any company's sales training program. You're a rookie, you've got to get ramped. You got to learn features and benefits and your product and competition. You're not going to learn, about your buyer. You're not going to learn questioning techniques and skill sets. You're not going to learn listening skill sets. You're there to listen, kind of, sort of, present, quote, and then just kind of hope, right?
Right.
So it's almost like we get in there, we do a discovery, then we create a proposal, and then we just kind of beg, please, oh please, please send us the order. I'll give you 10 points because it's in the end of the quarter, and it's got to stop. And there's companies out there that are doing it. There are companies who are getting much better at not training their salespeople to do the show up, throw up, spray, pray, crop dust, whatever you want to call it. Right?
All three of those. I love those descriptions. Yes.
So there are better trends out there. There really are.
Well, how do we make it more widespread? Because I think that one of the things I see is especially with companies that sort of embrace certain industries, embracing the inside sales model is there's like a little Bible they follow, and I find it so ironic that companies that are so dedicated to disrupting markets use these sales processes that are so rigid. And to your point, it's like when they're onboarding people and they're training people, it's all about the activity. And it's not about how do I make this person better at what they're doing.
So I love when we get kind of new customers and I get to talk to some of their better reps. And I'll say, "Tell me a deal you got working." "Well, I got this one deal, it's looking really good." "How much is it worth?" $50,000. "When's it coming in?" "End of the month." "Okay. What's the size of the quote is.
Mm-hmm.
You know that you got the decision maker, which is typically what we call below the line buyer, not the above the line buyer, the fiscal buyer. And so let me ask you a quick question. What's the size of the problem? And I get dead silence. It's like I go, no, the only reason they're doing something is they've got a goal and they've got a gap.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the goal they're working on and what's the gap? They got to get to 40 million next year and they're only at 30. They got a 10 million revenue gap. They've got a new product launch that they predicted 25 million on.
Mm-hmm.
They got 12 in the bank and they're running out of time. Well, what's the size of the problem that you're helping to solve? Not what's the problem you're solving, because that's kind of too below the line feature benefit for me.
Right.
And so good companies are really looking at the business case earlier in the cycle before they commit resources. So if a customer is not willing to sit back and say, here's our problems, or here's our initiatives, and here's the problems, which we call trains in the train station.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the trains we've got, and they're in the train station for these reasons. Can you help make a dent on any of those trains? And having that conversation well before demos and proposals, because if not, you're going to still end up with all the numbers we talked about here.
Yeah, well, they're not a qualified prospect.
Yeah, salespeople have got to do a better job at looking at the business case. And the problem is, when I ask most sales managers, what's the business acumen of your sales team, they roll their eyes. They're like, that's a good question. So what are you doing about it?
Well, yeah, we'll start with the manager. What's your business acumen?
Exactly.
So, yeah,
I love to coach my people, but I got to make the number this week. So I'm going to go beat the crowd out of them and give a whole bunch of discounts.
Exactly. So I sat in a room. They're familiar with Modern Sales Pros, the listserv, and they had a meetup with a bunch of SDR managers and SDR directors and so on in New York. This was earlier this year, and I sort of went from table to table because they had table discussion topics and so on. And so I asked one of the questions. I said, "Okay, who at this table uses discounts to bring a deal in this month versus next month?" They also raised their hand. I said, "Okay, so who's done an ROI on that? Who's actually analyzed whether what the impact that discount has, because you're going to get that deal anyway next month, right?" None of them. I said, "Who uses spiffs, which is the same as the discount effectively for your bottom line?" I'll raise a hand. Who's ever done an ROI on a spiff? None of them. So we just march down these paths thinking that we need to do these things that really make no difference at all.
Years ago, Andy, we had a company based in Virginia, and they had a head of the Central, head of the East, head of the West, right? So we all looked at their forecast, and the head of the West was predicting 10 deals for the quarter. And all the deals had 20, 30, 40% discounts. So the president of the company, the VP of sales, made a deal with the director of the West. And they said, for these 10 deals, right, if they come in or not, doesn't matter. We're going to give the rep and you full quota and full comp. So if they come in or not, don't worry about it. You get full compensation and full quota credit. But here's what we want you to do. On these 10 deals, go tell the customers, this is the price. And when they ask for a discount, your answer is, we used to discount. We don't do that anymore because we have new management. We're not allowed to do that. Of the 10 deals, 8 came in at this price.
Yeah.
We're looking at a 30% discount. I mean, the number was close to $500,000-$600,000 of earnings, not revenue, earnings that they were going to give away because that's what's needed, because that's how people buy in this industry, I was told. So we did this little trick, and it worked out great. And it turned out, guys, we don't need a discount. It's our paradigm. Yeah. So one of the biggest things I find, Andy, is busting down people's paradigms. I've done 3 or 4 company turnarounds myself as either VP or as president. We've always done it that way. Skip, we tried that a couple of years ago. It didn't work. Skip, you don't understand our business. Once you understand our business, you'll understand why we do the things we do them.
Exactly.
Paradigms, we have companies who have 90% forecast accuracy, and it's because the management demands it. So these expectations and paradigms are something that's got to change rather than it is what it is. This is what Salesforce tells me it is. That's the best we can do.
Well, and the thing about forecasting, and let's take that as a topic, is how many companies, maybe the companies you work with are an exception, but how many companies do you know actually provide training on how to forecast and then provide regular feedback on the accuracy of the forecast, measure people on the accuracy of their forecast? Almost none.
Think about it. Okay. A common term with forecasting is how much over do you have? 2x, 3x, 4x, 4.5x? Let's just take 2.5x. You're telling me that the entire sales team is focusing on 2.5x in their deal, knowing that 1 out of 2.5 are going to come in. That's 1.5 effort, productivity the salespeople are spending on something that's not going to come in. So why would the culture be we have to have 2x, 3x funnel? Why? You got to bust that paradigm down.
Oh, that's rampant in Silicon Valley. I mean, this is, every CEO I talk to, it's like, well, I talked to a CEO earlier this year who said, yeah, we're increasing our pipeline coverage from 5x to 7x. And I said, so what you realize you're doing is you're giving your reps incentive to put crap into the pipeline.
Andy, I used to sit at my desk as a sales guy Friday at 4:00 going, yep, I called on this company. I just sent it in because it was required that you had to have X amount in your funnel. I made stuff up. Yeah. I mean, not that that's, it's kind of like a low integrity shot, but as a 25, 6-year-old salesperson, I wasn't good. I mean, I didn't have it, but I was told to get it. I'll do something.
Yeah.
So you're right. Crap in the funnel.
Yeah. No, I was fortunate. I never had to work in those. I worked in big companies, but we never had that. Maybe it was because of managers I work for. We never had that imperative to have a certain percentage coverage. we either if we didn't make the number, we were gone. So they gave us the freedom to sort of hang ourselves. And I have to admit, I always operated with low coverage because I either fortunately or not, or I got trained well, or had a great mentor. I learned how to qualify early on, and I operated thin, but I closed them. If they were qualified, they're qualified to buy what I was selling.
Now, in my book, I have a book, Proactive Selling, and when it did well, they asked me to do a second edition. So I filled out some stuff, sent it in, and they called me back within a week. The publisher said, "Well, Skip, didn't you read your contract?" And I said, "No." And they said, "Well, you've agreed to change 25% of the book." I go, "Wow, that's like a lot. I didn't know that one." So I had to come up with some new ideas. And the one idea I came up with was the definition of qualify and disqualify. Qualify are the things we do, the questions we ask to try to keep the deal in the funnel. And disqualify would be the questions we ask, the things we do to try to kick a deal out of the funnel. And I think disqualify is more important than qualify. The problem is we don't like the answer.
Exactly.
I'm breaking up with you. No, I'm really a good guy. Give me a second chance. We don't like the disqualified answer. And Andy, you know that when you say, listen, it's not really working, people always want what they can't have. They come back and go, oh, just kidding. Qualification skill sets are not really pressured in boot camps. It's, hi, you got the lead, get him in a demo, send him a free trial, put him a proposal. I mean, look at all the stuff you're doing. That whole give-get ratio is way out of whack. But you don't have 3X funnel, you're screwed.
Yeah, well, this whole idea that you can have your SDRs, quote unquote, qualify a prospect or a buyer is, not very wise. And I'm with you. I mean, we're going to be publishing some stuff next week about qualification. Is for me, it's what I learned, which is similar to what you talked about, is that if the buyer can't quantify the outcomes they want to achieve in dollars, then they haven't made the decision to change yet.
Right.
Doesn't mean they won't at some point, but they're not there yet. And so either you need to say, are they at a point where I can get them there? Or, I'll just continue to nurture them. And for purposes of forecast now, they're just not in it.
And if there's nothing broke, they're not going to fix it. So something had to break. What broke and by how much? What's the gap? What are the problems that you're trying to fix and differentiate your outcomes? Because people hate to change, as you said. And if they're changing, somebody's holding a gun to their head. Well, let's go find out what that is. And it's typically not the guy who's answering an SDR's call saying, yes, I'd really love to see a demo of your stuff. Higher up the C-suite.
It's higher up the chain, right? And that's the other thing is you got to qualify with somebody higher. And that's why I use this metric of they quantify the outcomes? Because if they haven't done the work internally to say, to your point, this is the size of the problem, right? And this is the size of the value that we're going to get from solving the problem, they're just not there yet.
And you're going to go all the way through proposal, and the person's going to go, there's not enough energy to put this deal across the finish line. Well, I'll give you 30 points, but there's not enough. So this is better than nothing. Nah, nothing's better.
Nothing. Right. And so this, get back to a point is if we have this, we sort of institutionalize this idea of poor qualification, low close rates. So you think about the amount of time reps spend on things that just would never close.
Yep. And
we talk about paradigms that have to break. It starts with the coverage requirements. You break that down, then maybe you can start changing the paradigm. But I don't know how we break that paradigm. And we're sort of doing it one company at a time.
It starts with managers. Great sales managers sit back and say, in stage 2, or whatever, here's what we need from the customer. These are the give-gets. If we don't get them, we should talk. But setting those standards early in a salesperson's career for the team, I don't see that happening at all. And I do quite a bit of sales management stuff. Mm-hmm. So we teach managers, what are the expectations for the team? If I went to your team right now, besides filling the funnel, right? What are the expectations they have to qualify a deal, call higher, overcome their fears? What are you doing here? Mm-hmm. And great sales management cultures have those things. And that's what I think what's lacking is, we're hiring these salespeople and training them up to follow inbound leads. And now that those are drying up, managers, and to your point, have not been trained on how to set those expectations. We have a client, Andy, that requires its salespeople to do 100 outbound calls, emails or calls a day. I went to another company and told them those numbers. They go, wow, that's like a lot. I'm sitting there going, 100's not, what? So it's a cultural issue.
Sure.
And so paradigms the managers have got to break, start with themselves on what's the expectation. And it's not 5X funnel. Marketing's not getting us good leads. It's not that at all. It's getting your hands dirty. You got to get your hands dirty here. Salespeople have got to prospect. They got to get out there. They got to ask for referrals. They got to do all that stuff that normal, good salespeople should do.
Well, let me ask a question about that because, I agree to a certain degree. So, I just wonder if one of the changes is that, at some point, I look at prospecting as sort of a necessity, right? You're going to do it if you don't have enough good leads coming in. And who among us have ever had enough good leads come in that we didn't have to go prospect? But it seems, for me, prospecting fundamentally is a marketing activity. Oftentimes you're building awareness, you're creating demand. Ideally, in a utopian type world, that'd be great if that wasn't a sales responsibility. But can we ever get there, right? I mean, that's the thing that sort of, for me, is like, gosh, we take some of our best talent and we put them out doing something that, it's really not the best use of their time. But it's a necessity.
I agree and I disagree. I agree that, if you take a class from us, you'll get a letter from us saying, thanks for taking the class. If you know anybody who could use this stuff, please. So that's a marketing thing.
Mm-hmm.
I got it. But if Mary, the top salesperson, just closed a $3 million deal and she knows the CFO, the CEO, and the CXO, Mary should sit back and say, guys, thank you very much. By the way, do you know anybody else that you just asking for a referral is prospecting? We're not talking banging phones.
Yeah, not referrals. I agree 100%.
So 20 to 30% of a salesperson's pipeline, prospecting pipeline, should be self-generated. And it could be done through referrals, through networking, through LinkedIn, whatever it may be.
And I agree 100% on that. I was talking just cold calling type activities and so on.
But imagine the salesperson prospecting. What would that happen to the 2, 3, 4X funnel? Which therefore, what would happen to forecast accuracy?
Oh yeah, goes up.
Yeah, it does.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I still believe most of this is coming back to the sales manager. Managers have got to put a culture together, put metrics together. Here's what's expected for us. What do we need to do at stage 2? What paradigms do we need to break through? If a manager does that, you'll see more of a swing to get away from where we're at right now in today's sales.
Well, let me ask you a question then, because this is one that I think is sort of a missing element, is forecast accuracy we're talking about. Get people out of the office more.
You are more productive when you do that, but people really love coming to home base.
Yeah. So again, sort of tied in with whole inside sales things. It's great. We've got a inside AE. He can sell a pretty complex thing. I guarantee you close rate would go up. Your forecast accuracy would go up if you get that person face to face with somebody. Video's great, but it's not the same. And
it's
that.
Not. Yeah, it's not. And Zoom's a client, so I got to be careful with that.
Right.
But the basic wonder is, guys, if a salesperson has got to make a commitment to get in a car or get in a plane and travel, that means they're required to get hard commitments from their customers, which you don't have to do by a Zoom meeting or an email. If they didn't respond to an email, they'll respond to it tomorrow. I mean, it's kind of like it's like kissing through a screen. I mean, it's not a commitment, okay?
Right.
If I got to get on a plane or a car and take my boss with me, and the place doesn't exist, or the person isn't work there anymore, or they don't show up for the meeting, I didn't do my job. Boy, that requires a lot of work. Well, good sales does require a lot of work. So I fully agree with you. You got to spend more time outside than just in, except in the low area where you're dealing with, $50 a month, $100 a month type stuff.
Yeah. Transactional, obviously you don't need to do that, but anything with any sort of complexity to it. And I was talking to one company and I think their lifetime contract value was like 150 or something. And they were afraid and they had bigger deals, obviously, than that. That was average. And they were afraid to get on a plane. I'm like, really? Go get on a plane, close a deal. I mean, this is what the customer wants you. And also, you start differentiating yourself when you go do that.
Yep. But that sense of urgency, one more time, has got to come from the culture of the managers. guys, when do the customer need this deal? Let's go get it from them. Come on, let's set up that meeting. Let's go. And once that culture starts, then the salespeople will pick up that sense of urgency. But if the manager doesn't have the sense of urgency, so let's go out and talk to customers. Trade shows, I think, are hysterical. I mean, who works a trade show? Rookies and veterans. The veterans know it's a great networking opportunity. The rookies have to do it because they're filling in the blanks. The B and C players don't go to trade shows because it's like, I don't want to go. It's not my thing, right? I get it. Trade shows are a lot of work. I used to run a trade show company. But boy, there's some great networking. There's some great stuff to do, but it requires a lot of homework before you go. Yeah. So that culture, again, of a manager has got to be, guys, we prospect 20, 30% of the time. We get out there and let's go. But without it, I'll do the lazy thing. I'll get on the phone because then I get to go home at 4 o'clock and play with the kids and in my basketball league or whatever it may be. I don't have to do all that rough stuff. And like you and I in our own business, when I went from executive platinum to platinum on American, I celebrated because that says I wasn't flying as much as I do. Which I don't want to fly that much.
Right. So me too.
You got to get out there. But fully agree with you. What do you think? So I'm going to flip it back to you for a second. Sure. What do you think, talking about the topic of sales has been this way for 200 years, but we got to do things differently, right? Mm-hmm. Number one, in my opinion, we got to stay closer to the buyer's journey because buyers are looking at a lot more stuff. 2, we got to go find the business case. What's the size of the problem? Mm-hmm. 3, we got to bust through paradigms, especially at the sales manager rank, like we've always done it this way. Well, what are some trends that you're seeing?
Well, I mean, the oral history is certainly one of them, right? This oral tradition that gets passed on from generation to generation. So, one of my big bugaboos is I always smile when someone says, well, we got to go create a sense of urgency in the customer. And it's like, well, then they're not ready to buy. I mean, it's the customer. Yeah, if you do any sort of research or reading into buying behaviors, is that when people embark on a buying behavior, they want to quickly gather information to be able to make a good decision with the least investment of their time and energy possible. Yep. So once they're on a path, I believe there's 2 steps in a decision. This is something I experienced myself, and then I saw some research that sort of validated is the first decision step is a go-no-go decision, right? Are we going to do this change or not? And then the second order is who are we going to do it with?
Right.
But salespeople just blow right past that first one. And if the customer hasn't made that decision, there is no urgency. And you can work as hard as you want to try to create a sense of urgency. It's just not there.
Think of Bob and Mary. Bob is the below-the-line user buyer. Mary is the fiscal buyer.
Right.
Bob, seeing a new fancy toy on the web, says, yes, I'm in charge of this. I don't like what we have. We have to get rid of our old way of doing things. Mary doesn't know it's a problem. Mary's not funding this yet. There's no budget for it. Mary's got a whole bunch of other problems she's got to fund. Mm-hmm. So why don't you go up to Mary early and go, hey, Mary, Bob's knocking at my door, who's a great guy, but what's the problem you're trying to solve? You make this change. And Mary's going to go, I didn't know we were sick. I didn't know we had a problem. There's no sense of urgency. Urgency in our world is typically always above the line. Mm-hmm. And if we don't get above the line early going, what's the size of the problem? What's causing you to make this change? Bob's going to run you around for more free trials and more extensions of free trials and more proposals than you'll ever care to.
Exactly. And this is where I think that's the loop. The poor qualification loop, I think, is the single biggest point of failure for most sales reps is, and we talked about it earlier with qualification, is if you can't quantify the pain point, the problem they're trying to solve, or quantify, in my case, what I talk about is quantify the value they're going to receive.
Yeah.
Then, like I said, they just haven't reached that point yet. You haven't gotten them to that point, or they're just not ready to be at that point, whatever. Stop spending your time on it. Stop giving that extra demo.
To the point, I've got a big, golf tournament coming up, and I don't want to, shoot, over 100. Oh, there's some energy to go buy some new golf clubs. Why are you looking at some new golf clubs? I read a magazine that these are the coolest, newest, greatest clubs. There's no energy. There's no energy, right? Why do you want to buy a car? My lease is up on Friday. I guess there's some energy there. Mm-hmm. But I was just looking at your new models. I mean, you got to find out that, as you said, sense of urgency to make a change, not a sense of urgency to buy my stuff. That's down the line. What's the sense of urgency to make a change?
Yeah, and I think you and I look at the urgency maybe a little different perspective. Mine is always what I found, and work for me, is that they've got a sense of urgency to achieve an outcome. Right? I want to increase market share. I want to increase sales. I want to increase productivity. I want to lower costs, whatever that metric is. And they say, if I do that over the next 18 months, this is what's going to accrue to earnings. This is what we're going to get on top line growth, whatever. If they've got that number,
right,
you're golden.
And if they've got those goals and they're meeting those goals, they're not going to change what they're doing. So the buy window right now is not open.
Right.
Wait till those trains leave the station, because you know as well as I do, 3-6 months from now, new trains will come in and you'll have some gaps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
but we're not training our managers to coach that way. We're definitely not training our salespeople to ask questions and, to your point, qualify that way.
Yeah. All right. We could go on forever.
It's a great topic.
Yeah, and we've already gone half an hour, and we've touched like 5% of what I was going to talk about, but I knew that was going to be the case. So we'll definitely have to do this again. So Skip, tell people how they can get in touch with you.
Sure. Skip at M3, the number 3, M3learning.com, or the website is M3learning.com. Amazon's got all my books and sales management, and happy to talk to anybody, or kind of go from there.
Perfect. All right, Skip, thanks. Great as always.
All right, thanks, Andy.
Okay, friends, that was Accelerate for the week. First of all, as always, I want to thank you for joining me, and I want to thank my guest, Skip Miller. We'll make sure to have Skip back again. Join me again next week as I welcome Daryl Prale to the show. Daryl is the CMO of VanillaSoft, and we're going to have a really interesting conversation about sales and marketing alignment. Daryl has some pretty unique perspectives on how to enable sales and marketing to work together to achieve that common revenue goal. So be sure to join us then for that. And before you go, don't forget to check out the Sales House, the all-in-one sales learning, coaching, mentoring, and growth accelerator for B2B sellers. Visit thesaleshouse.com/trial to join today. Look forward to seeing you there. Thanks again for joining me. Until next week, I'm your host, Andy Paul. Good selling, everyone. RingDNA is the leading sales enablement platform that uses AI to help scale business growth. Trusted by the top companies across the globe, RingDNA offers a suite of powerful tools for every sales role. The RingDNA Dialer radically improves sales productivity and call connection rates, while guided selling helps reps know exactly what to do and when to do it. Conversation AI uses artificial intelligence to surface the most impactful coaching opportunities in real time. So, no matter where your team is working from, the RingDNA platform can help them exponentially increase call connections, opportunities, and revenue. Learn more at ringdna.com/platform. That's ringdna.com/platform.